Welcome to the Growth Mindset Signals Atlas. Our whole mission here is to map the hidden mental signals behind long-term improvement. And today, we are digging into a really powerful force that can stall growth in even the most capable people. It's called the scarcity trap. So let's start with a question that, probably hits home for a lot of us. Why do smart, capable people stall? You know that feeling, right? You're putting in the work, you've got the skills, but you just seem to hit this invisible wall. Your progress just stops. So what's going on? Well, the answer isn't about more effort or more intelligence. It's about a hidden mental signal that's quietly running the show in the background. All right, so here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll look at the counterintuitive signal itself. Then we'll identify 3 patterns of scarcity. After that, we're going to dig into the mental mechanism behind it all, figure out the hidden cost, and finally talk about the crucial shift in perspective that unlocks everything. We'll wrap up with 3 questions for you to reflect on. Okay, let's dive right in. The signal. We're starting with what is a pretty counterintuitive truth about growth. See, there's a very common belief about what drives us to improve, and it turns out behavioral research shows it's fundamentally wrong. But it's an idea many of us have completely internalized as a key to motivation. So the common belief is that scarcity creates hunger. This idea that having less of something, less time, less money, less status, lights a fire under you and drives you forward. But the real signal, the thing that's actually happening, is that scarcity consumes our bandwidth. It doesn't motivate you. It acts like a cognitive tax. It monopolizes your mental resources, and it undermines the very strategic thinking you need for any kind of long-term growth. So how does this cognitive tax actually show up in the real world? This isn't just some vague feeling. It actually manifests in 3 distinct, observable patterns that you can start to see in yourself and in the people around you. It's kind of a cascade. It starts internally, our mental bandwidth narrows, and it forces us into tunnel vision. This then changes how we see the entire world. Our worldview shrinks down to a zero-sum game, where someone else's win feels like your loss. And then finally, it changes who we are. Our identity calcifies. It hardens around what we're trying not to lose, instead of what we could become. Okay, let's move on to the mechanism and see how this actually builds. What is happening in the brain that causes these destructive patterns? Well, it really comes down to a fundamental limitation of our own cognitive architecture.
The core mechanism here is what's called cognitive bandwidth. Just think of your brain as having a finite amount of processing power, like RAM in a computer. When it perceives a threat of scarcity, that threat completely hijacks the system. All of the available resources get diverted to managing that immediate problem, and it shuts down everything else, the higher-level stuff like creativity, strategic planning, and learning.
And it is so crucial to understand this. This isn't a failure of willpower. This isn't a character flaw. It is a predictable mechanical outcome. When your mind is hijacked by a preservation instinct, long-term strategy isn't just difficult, it becomes functionally impossible. Growth opportunities don't just seem risky, they become literally invisible to you. Now, this mental mechanism has a high and often hidden price. It's the very thing that creates the plateaus and stalls that ambitious, hardworking people are trying so desperately to avoid. And the cost isn't a single event, but a slow, quiet erosion of your future potential. And right here, you can see the long-term damage laid out. These behaviors, hoarding information, avoiding risks, defending your current position, they feel prudent, right? They feel responsible in the moment. But over time, they are quietly dismantling the very foundations of your future growth. Your network weakens, your skills stagnate, and your identity becomes a cage built for safety, not a platform for potential. So the crucial point is that escaping this trap isn't about magically finding more resources. The solution is not external. It is an internal, fundamental shift in how we perceive our constraints in the first place. This insight right here is the key. Growth-oriented individuals, they don't ignore their constraints. They simply refuse to let those constraints define the entire game. They reinterpret them as problems to be solved within a much larger field of play, one that they can actively expand themselves. And here is that simple but really profound shift in perception. The scarcity mindset sees a wall, and the goal becomes just defending the small territory behind it. But the growth perspective, it sees that same wall, but views it as a temporary problem to be navigated or dismantled. The goal shifts entirely, from preservation to creation. All right, to make all this practical, we're going to end by turning this diagnostic lens back on you.
Now, these are not easy questions, but they are designed to reveal where the scarcity signal might be active in your own life. So take a moment and really reflect. In which area of your life, maybe your career, your learning, your relationships, is a focus on what you lack, costing you opportunities to learn, to connect, or to build something new? Now, let's flip the script. Question 2. What could abundance help you create today? Just consider what becomes possible if you were to consciously shift your focus away from what might be lost and onto what could be created. Using only the resources you already have right now, what new value could you generate today? And the final question, are you limiting yourself unnecessarily right now? Is the game you're playing truly as small and constrained as you perceive it to be? Or has a scarcity mindset just made it feel that way, convincing you to play for survival when you could be playing for growth?